Introduction. Rachel sat in her car outside her daughter's school, hands trembling as she replayed the conversation that had just shattered her world. Her 8-year-old had climbed into the back seat and casually mentioned how she'd gotten her teacher to change her seat by making sad eyes like Daddy taught me. The innocent way her daughter described manipulating emotions, the same tactics her narcissistic ex-husband used daily, sent ice through her veins. For 3 years, Rachel had bent over backwards to keep the peace with her ex-husband. She'd swallowed his insults during custody exchanges, agreed to his constantly changing demands, and convinced herself that maintaining harmony was protecting her children. She'd followed every piece of traditional co-parenting advice: communicate respectfully, be flexible, focus on the children's needs, and work together as a team. But sitting in that parking lot, watching her daughter demonstrate the emotional manipulation she'd learned from her father, Rachel realized the devastating truth. Her attempts at peaceful co-parenting weren't protecting her children, they were teaching them that manipulation was normal, that boundaries were optional, and that their mother's well-being didn't matter. That day marked everything. Rachel stopped trying to make co-parenting work with someone fundamentally incapable of healthy cooperation. Instead, she discovered something that actually worked: parallel parenting designed specifically for narcissistic situations. Within 6 months, her daughter stopped using manipulation tactics, her own anxiety decreased dramatically, and most importantly, her children began to understand what healthy boundaries look like. If you've picked up this book, you likely recognize yourself in Rachel's story. You've probably tried everything the experts recommend, only to watch it backfire spectacularly. You're tired of being told to communicate better with someone who weaponizes every conversation, exhausted from staying flexible with someone who exploits your every accommodation, and frustrated by advice that assumes both parents are capable of putting their children first. A revolutionary approach to child protection. This book exists to revolutionize how we approach parenting with narcissistic ex-partners by completely abandoning failed traditional co-parenting models and embracing child-protective, parallel parenting strategies that actually work in real-world high-conflict situations. Traditional co-parenting advice assumes both parents are emotionally healthy, capable of compromise, and genuinely committed to their children's well-being. When one parent is narcissistic, these assumptions become dangerous. Narcissistic individuals don't co-parent, they compete, manipulate, and control. They view cooperation as weakness to exploit and use their children as weapons in an ongoing war against their ex-partner. This creates a fundamental problem with conventional wisdom. Every parenting book tells you to find common ground, but what happens when the other parent views your children as trophies to win rather than people to nurture? Traditional advice suggests compromising for the children's sake, but how do you compromise with someone who sees every concession as proof of your weakness and their superiority? The answer is simple: you don't. This book provides a completely different framework: parallel parenting specifically designed for narcissistic dynamics. Instead of trying to create harmony where none can exist, you'll learn to establish bulletproof boundaries that protect your children while maintaining your legal standing and personal sanity. Rather than pursuing the illusion of cooperation, you'll discover how to create stability and safety within your own parenting sphere, regardless of what chaos exists in the other parent's domain. The strategies you'll learn focus on 3 core principles: child-centered protection that prioritizes your children's emotional safety over artificial harmony; manipulation-proof boundaries that work even when the other parent refuses to respect them; guilt-free parenting that frees you from impossible standards designed to keep you trapped. The goal isn't to change your narcissistic ex-partner. It's to protect your children from narcissistic manipulation while building their resilience, emotional intelligence, and understanding of healthy relationships. You'll learn to break free from traditional co-parenting guilt and create a new framework that prioritizes genuine child welfare over fake harmony. Who this book is for: warriors ready for real solutions. This book is specifically written for parents who have discovered that conventional co-parenting wisdom not only fails with narcissistic ex-partners but often makes situations worse. You're the parent who has tried being reasonable with someone fundamentally unreasonable, attempted compromise with someone who views every concession as victory, and sought peace with someone who thrives on chaos and control. You might be the mother who's been labeled difficult by family court because you refuse to enable your ex-husband's manipulation tactics. You could be the father whose narcissistic ex-wife uses the children as messengers, spies, and emotional weapons while presenting herself as the cooperative parent to outsiders. Perhaps you're the parent who's been gaslit into believing that your legitimate concerns about emotional abuse are parental alienation. This book speaks directly to your experience if you've encountered family therapists who recommend family meetings with someone who turns every discussion into an attack, attorneys who suggest being more reasonable with someone who exploits every reasonable gesture, friends who say just ignore it while your children learn that manipulation is normal, court systems that reward the parent who appears most cooperative, regardless of what happens behind closed doors. You're ready to stop sacrificing your children's emotional well-being for the illusion of cooperation. You understand that protecting your children might mean being labeled uncooperative by people who don't understand the dynamics you're facing. You're prepared to challenge conventional wisdom and embrace strategies that actually work, even if they look different from traditional co-parenting approaches. Most importantly, you're committed to breaking generational cycles of manipulation and emotional abuse. You refuse to let your children grow up thinking that chaos is normal, that boundaries are optional, or that love comes with conditions and manipulation. You want to give them something you might not have had: a model of healthy relationships, strong boundaries, and emotional safety. This book is for parents ready to stop pretending that toxic behavior will improve with enough patience, and start implementing strategies that protect their children's hearts and minds from ongoing psychological manipulation. Why this book is different, beyond traditional co-parenting. This is the first book to completely abandon the make it work together mentality that dominates co-parenting literature. While other resources focus on improving communication and finding compromise, this book recognizes a fundamental truth. You cannot successfully co-parent with someone who is fundamentally committed to winning rather than parenting. Most co-parenting books assume that both parents are operating from a place of good faith, that conflicts arise from misunderstandings or different parenting styles, and that with enough communication and compromise, harmony is possible. These assumptions are not only wrong when dealing with narcissistic individuals, they're dangerous. They set you up for failure while providing your narcissistic ex-partner with endless opportunities for manipulation and control. Here's what makes this approach revolutionary. Workshop-based learning. Each chapter includes hands-on workshops that move beyond theory to practical application. You'll find detailed templates for documentation, word-for-word scripts for various scenarios, and step-by-step exercises for building the skills you need to protect your children effectively. Narcissistic specific strategies. Unlike generic parenting advice, every strategy in this book has been developed specifically for narcissistic dynamics. The communication techniques account for love bombing, gaslighting, and projection. The boundary-setting methods work even when the other person refuses to respect them. The documentation strategies capture the subtle manipulation that others might miss. Reality validation. Perhaps most importantly, this book validates your reality. You won't find advice to see things from their perspective, or remember they're hurting too. Instead, you'll find acknowledgement that some people are genuinely toxic, that protecting your children sometimes requires firm boundaries that others might not understand, and that your primary obligation is to your children's safety and well-being. The book also addresses the unique challenges you face that traditional co-parenting resources ignore. How to handle flying monkeys, people the narcissist recruits to their cause, what to do when your ex-partner presents as charming to outsiders while being abusive privately, how to protect your children without being accused of parental alienation, and how to maintain your sanity while dealing with someone committed to driving you crazy. You'll discover techniques that work in the real world, not just in therapy offices or mediation rooms. These strategies have been tested by parents facing the daily reality of narcissistic manipulation, court battles, and children caught in the crossfire of an adult's psychological warfare. Your journey to freedom and protection. This book will take you on a transformative journey from frustrated co-parenting attempts to confident parallel parenting success. Each chapter builds upon the previous one, creating a comprehensive system for protecting your children while maintaining your own emotional and legal stability. Phase 1. Understanding the reality. You'll begin by understanding the myth-busting truth about why traditional co-parenting fails with narcissists. We'll explore the fundamental differences between healthy co-parenting conflicts and narcissistic manipulation, helping you recognize patterns you might have been trained to normalize. This foundation is crucial because you can't solve a problem you don't fully understand. Phase 2. Building protection systems. Next, you'll discover child protection strategies that don't require the other parent's cooperation. These techniques work within your own parenting sphere, creating safety and stability for your children regardless of what chaos exists elsewhere. You'll learn how to build your children's emotional resilience, teach them to recognize manipulation, and provide them with tools for navigating difficult situations without putting them in the middle of adult conflicts. Phase 3. Establishing bulletproof boundaries. The book then focuses on boundary-setting techniques that work even when the other person refuses to respect them. These aren't the gentle boundaries recommended for healthy relationships. These are bulletproof boundaries designed for people who view every boundary as a challenge to overcome. You'll learn how to create consequences that actually matter and how to maintain your boundaries even under intense pressure. Phase 4. Mastering strategic communication. Communication forms a crucial component of your new approach, but not the kind of communication you've been taught. You'll master techniques specifically designed for narcissistic dynamics, the gray rock method, structured communication protocols, and documentation strategies that protect you legally while minimizing opportunities for manipulation. Phase 5. Healing and moving forward. The journey continues with healing approaches for both you and your children. Narcissistic abuse creates specific types of trauma that require targeted healing strategies. You'll learn how to help your children process their experiences without demonizing the other parent, how to rebuild your own confidence and decision-making abilities, and how to create a home environment that feels safe and predictable. Throughout this journey, you'll participate in hands-on workshops that transform knowledge into practical skills. Each chapter includes exercises designed to help you apply what you're learning to your specific situation, templates you can customize for your needs, and reflection questions that deepen your understanding and commitment to change. Your children are worth the challenge. The path ahead requires courage because it challenges everything you've been told about co-parenting, forgiveness, and keeping families together. You're about to discover that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop trying to make something work that was never designed to work in the first place. Your children are watching, learning, and forming their understanding of what relationships should look like based on what they see between their parents. Every time you enable manipulation in the name of keeping peace, you teach them that their boundaries don't matter. Every time you accept disrespect to avoid conflict, you show them that love requires self-sacrifice to unhealthy degrees. But every time you maintain a healthy boundary, you teach them self-respect. Every time you refuse to engage with manipulation, you show them what emotional strength looks like. Every time you prioritize their genuine well-being over fake cooperation, you demonstrate what real love actually means. This book will challenge you, support you, and ultimately transform how you approach one of the most difficult situations any parent can face. You'll discover that you have more power than you realized, more options than you knew existed, and more strength than you ever imagined possible. Your children deserve a parent who is willing to be misunderstood by others in order to truly understand and protect them. They need someone strong enough to withstand criticism from people who don't understand your situation and confident enough to trust their own judgment even when others question it. You are that parent. You picked up this book because something inside you knows there has to be a better way. Trust that instinct. Your children's emotional safety and your own sanity are worth the challenge of learning a new approach. The journey begins now. Turn the page and discover a new way forward that puts your children's emotional safety first, establishes boundaries that actually work, and frees you from the impossible task of co-parenting with someone fundamentally incapable of healthy cooperation. Your future self and your children will thank you for having the courage to challenge everything and choose what actually works. 1. The co-parenting fairy tale is dead, and that's good news. Busting your co-parenting fiction workshop. Most parents enter post-divorce relationships carrying harmful myths about what successful co-parenting looks like, especially when dealing with a narcissistic ex-partner. These myths become invisible chains that keep you trapped in cycles of manipulation and frustration, preventing you from creating the peaceful environment your children actually need. Traditional co-parenting advice assumes both parents are emotionally healthy, willing to compromise, and genuinely prioritize their children's well-being above their own ego needs. When one parent has narcissistic traits, these assumptions crumble faster than a sandcastle at high tide, leaving the healthy parent scrambling to make sense of why nothing works the way the books promised it would. Let's examine the most damaging myths that keep parents stuck in toxic patterns, preventing them from moving toward more effective approaches. Myth 1. Good parents always put their differences aside for the children. This myth sounds noble on the surface, but it becomes weaponized when dealing with a narcissistic co-parent. The phrase, "for the children," becomes a manipulation tool, used to guilt you into accepting unreasonable demands, boundary violations, and disrespectful treatment. The reality check is simple but profound. Constantly accommodating manipulative behavior doesn't help your children. It teaches them that healthy boundaries are optional, and that one person's comfort matters more than everyone else's well-being. Children learn more from what they observe than what they're told, and watching you consistently cave to unreasonable demands sends a clear message about acceptable relationship dynamics. Hope discovered this truth after months of accepting her ex-husband's last-minute schedule changes because he claimed it was better for the kids. Her 7-year-old daughter started having anxiety attacks every Friday, not knowing whether Daddy would show up or if plans would change again. The constant uncertainty was harming her child more than maintaining rigid boundaries ever could. Myth 2. If I just communicate better, we can work things out. This myth keeps countless parents trapped in endless cycles of explaining, justifying, and defending their decisions to someone who has no intention of understanding or cooperating. The assumption that better communication solves all problems ignores the fundamental reality that narcissistic individuals often use communication as a weapon rather than a bridge. Healthy communication requires two willing participants who share basic respect for each other's perspectives and genuine interest in finding solutions. When one person views every conversation as an opportunity to control, criticize, or create chaos, traditional communication strategies become counterproductive. Consider the weekly communication calls that Hope scheduled with her ex-husband for 3 years. She prepared talking points, practiced staying calm, and genuinely believed that consistent, respectful dialogue would eventually break through his hostility. Instead, these calls became weekly opportunities for him to interrogate her about her personal life, criticize her parenting decisions, and plant seeds of doubt about her competence. The breakthrough came when she realized that his behavior patterns never changed regardless of her communication approach. Whether she was warm and accommodating or businesslike and brief, he found ways to create conflict and confusion. The problem wasn't her communication style. The problem was his agenda. Myth 3. Children need both parents to be actively involved no matter what. This myth causes tremendous guilt and keeps parents accepting harmful situations under the banner of protecting their children's relationship with the other parent. While healthy relationships with both parents are ideal, forcing children to navigate manipulative, emotionally unsafe interactions isn't protecting anyone. Quality matters infinitely more than quantity when it comes to parent-child relationships. A parent who consistently creates drama, manipulates situations, or uses the child as a messenger or spy isn't providing beneficial involvement. They're creating trauma disguised as family time. Felix struggled with this myth for years, watching his 8-year-old son return from visits with his mother increasingly withdrawn and anxious. The boy would ask questions like, "Why doesn't mommy like your new house?" And "Am I supposed to tell mommy about your girlfriend?" These weren't innocent childhood curiosities. They were the result of being coached and manipulated during visits. The father's initial instinct was to work harder at facilitating the mother-son relationship, believing that his son needed his mother regardless of her behavior. The turning point came when his son explicitly stated he didn't want to go to mommy's house anymore because she gets mad when I talk about you. Sometimes protecting your child's relationship with the other parent means protecting them from harmful interactions, even when society tells you the opposite. Myth 4. Putting children first means sacrificing your own well-being. This martyrdom myth is particularly toxic because it sounds virtuous while creating unsustainable situations that ultimately harm everyone involved. Parents who completely sacrifice their own mental health, financial stability, or personal boundaries in the name of putting children first often discover they have nothing left to give when their children need them most. Children benefit from having at least one emotionally stable, mentally healthy parent more than they benefit from having two parents who maintain superficial peace through one parent's constant sacrifice. Your well-being isn't separate from your children's well-being. It's foundational to it. The hidden cost of fairy tale thinking. These myths create a perfect storm of self-blame and confusion. When traditional co-parenting strategies fail with a narcissistic ex-partner, the healthy parent assumes they're not trying hard enough, communicating well enough, or sacrificing enough for their children's sake. This self-blame prevents parents from recognizing that some situations require completely different approaches. You can't use relationship tools designed for healthy partnerships when dealing with someone who views relationships as battlefields to be won rather than connections to be nurtured. Reality-based co-parenting principles. Effective co-parenting with a narcissistic ex-partner requires abandoning fairy tale expectations and embracing reality-based strategies. Parallel parenting often works better than traditional co-parenting. Limited communication reduces opportunities for manipulation. Consistent boundaries protect everyone involved. Your mental health directly impacts your parenting quality. Children can thrive with one stable parent and limited contact with a chaotic one. Moving forward without fiction. Releasing these harmful myths isn't about giving up on your children or becoming selfish. It's about becoming strategic and realistic in ways that actually serve your family's long-term interests. The next chapter will help you understand the specific behavioral patterns and tactics that make traditional co-parenting impossible with narcissistic ex-partners, giving you the knowledge foundation needed to develop more effective approaches. Remember this as you continue reading. The goal isn't to make co-parenting work exactly like the books describe. The goal is to make your family work in spite of the challenges you face. When nice gets you nowhere. Traditional co-parenting advice assumes both parents are operating in good faith with the child's best interests at heart. When dealing with a narcissistic ex-partner, this assumption becomes dangerous because it provides them with tools for manipulation rather than genuine collaboration. The standard playbook for healthy co-parenting relationships becomes a weapon in the wrong hands, turning your attempts at cooperation into opportunities for control and chaos. Understanding why traditional approaches fail isn't just educational, it's essential for your survival and your children's well-being. The good faith assumption falls apart. Most co-parenting resources are built on the foundation that both parents genuinely want what's best for their children and are willing to set aside personal grievances to achieve that goal. This assumption creates frameworks designed to help reasonable people navigate disagreements and find compromises that work for everyone involved. When one parent has narcissistic traits, this entire foundation crumbles. Narcissistic individuals view relationships as zero-sum games where someone must win and someone must lose. They don't see co-parenting as a collaborative effort to raise healthy children. They see it as a battlefield where they can continue to exert control, seek revenge, or maintain their sense of superiority over their ex-partner. This fundamental difference in motivation means that every tool designed to facilitate cooperation becomes a weapon for manipulation instead. How narcissists weaponize communication channels. Traditional co-parenting advice encourages open, frequent communication between parents to ensure consistency and address children's needs promptly. Co-parenting apps, regular phone calls, and face-to-face meetings are presented as essential tools for successful shared parenting. For narcissistic ex-partners, these communication channels become hunting grounds. Penelope learned this lesson painfully over 18 months of trying to follow her divorce mediator's advice about maintaining healthy dialogue with her ex-husband. She dutifully sent weekly updates about their daughter's school activities, shared photos from events, and responded promptly to his questions about scheduling and logistics. What she didn't realize was that he was using every piece of information as ammunition. Her mention of their daughter's new friend became an interrogation about who the friend's parents were and why she hadn't been consulted about the friendship. Her update about a school event became criticism that she never told him about it in advance, even though she had sent 3 reminders. Her photos became evidence that she was showing off and trying to make him look bad. Each attempt at cooperative communication became a trap that left her defending decisions, explaining her choices, or apologizing for things that weren't wrong in the first place. The mediation mirage. Family mediation is often court-ordered or strongly recommended as a way to resolve co-parenting disputes outside of expensive legal battles. The process assumes that both parents are honest about their motivations, willing to compromise, and capable of putting their children's needs above their own desire to win. These assumptions create perfect conditions for narcissistic manipulation. Elijah discovered this reality during court-ordered family therapy sessions designed to improve communication with his ex-wife. She would arrive early to each session, presenting herself as the reasonable, concerned parent who just wanted what was best for their son. She spoke in measured tones about her concerns regarding his parenting, while subtly undermining him with seemingly innocent questions. "I'm just worried because Elijah seems so angry all the time," she would say, her voice dripping with false concern. "I wonder if his stress levels are affecting our son's sense of security." When he attempted to respond or defend himself, she would nod sympathetically and say things like, "See? This is exactly what I mean about his defensiveness. Our son shouldn't have to witness this kind of hostility." The therapist, trained in traditional family dynamics, couldn't recognize the manipulation patterns and inadvertently reinforced her behavior by praising her willingness to communicate while questioning his defensiveness. Every session became an opportunity for her to publicly position herself as the stable parent, while painting him as unstable and difficult. He left each session feeling gaslighted, frustrated, and further from any real resolution than when they started. Why gray rock conflicts with traditional advice. Mental health professionals who specialize in narcissistic abuse often recommend the gray rock method, becoming as boring and unresponsive as possible to reduce the narcissist's interest in continued manipulation. This strategy involves minimal communication, neutral responses, and avoiding sharing personal information that could be used against you. Traditional co-parenting advice directly contradicts this approach. Standard recommendations include sharing details about your child's daily life, discussing parenting philosophies, and maintaining warm, friendly interactions to model healthy relationships for your children. These behaviors provide endless supply for narcissistic manipulation and control. Penelope found herself caught between her therapist's advice to practice gray rock techniques and her co-parenting coach's insistence that she needed to be more collaborative and communicative. Following the co-parenting advice led to increased harassment and manipulation.